Alright guys, I'm back. I hope you're all doing well with the current virus situation and everything. I hope your families are all well off in case you are in quarantine. I do hope that you find ways to keep yourself busy and don't become crazy. Maybe we can use this time to maybe put a little more effort into our coding skills. And yeah, I'm back today with the second part of our little to-do list project that we started in the last video. Just as a quick reminder, we finished the CSS and the HTML. The list is basically done. It was all based on this design of a task manager by a agency called Cuberto probably in San Francisco, so shout out to them. The code will be up on GitHub. A link to that will be in the description if you want to check it out. And what we'll do today is add the JavaScript functionality to this list and also animate the whole thing. So I hope you're as excited as I am, and we'll start right off. So what I did in our project is first of all to include a JavaScript file. I called it main.js. There's nothing in it yet. I linked to it. No, actually I didn't link to it yet. So that's something we should do. Just write a quick comment, JavaScript script source. And the source will be /js/ main.js. There we go. That is good. Can maybe try it out with the quick log test. Let's see, test is working. Great. Something that I completely forgot about in the last video was the add button that we need, because we want to add tasks through a modal with an input in it. So we need a button to click on so the modal can pop up and we can type in our task. That's fairly easy. What we'll do for that is simply add some JavaScript. I actually wrote that stuff already, so I'll just copy it in here so I don't bore you guys with that. I simply made a class called footer. It's a div, and then there is this add button, which is an image with a plus sign. Do we actually have this image in here? No, we do not. Perfect. So we need it in here. There we go. Let's check this out. Refresh. What is going on again? Obviously, we also need some CSS to go with that, or Sass, which is what we are writing. I'll also copy that in here. We already created this Sass file just to get through this. So that's the footer. It has a set width and height. It's positioned absolute. Bottom 0, so it's at the bottom of the page or the app. It has display flex, flex end, and flex start to position the button, and padding right is set to 10%. Let's refresh that and see if it works. Great, there it is. And the add button itself has a height and width of 50 pixels, a background color. It is extended with a .flex center class, which is this one, basically display flex, justify content center, align item center to have the plus sign in the middle of the button, and border radius, font size, those kind of things. What have I added here? WebKit tab highlight color. That is in order to make or to prevent the button to get a highlight color on touch devices. When you touch it, it's not highlighted the way it usually is. I just find that to be a bit more cleaner. The image has also a set height of 13 pixels. That's it for the add button. Now the next part we need to add in our HTML is obviously the modal. I have not designed it separately, but I just made something up there. I will add that here as well and explain it to you. So the modal will go right in here. Doesn't really matter where it is in your class, in your code. So that's a div with a class of modal and then modal content. We will need this wrapper class of modal because when we have this modal popping up, we want the background to be darkened. That's why we need a separate wrapper class there. Inside modal content, which you can imagine as like a little box, as you can see later, we have a close class, which just has a SVG of a close icon in it, which is actually this one right here we already implemented, and a checkbox and an input. You'll see what we need those for later. And again, some CSS has to go in here as well, obviously. This is what we'll need. Let's just paste that in here. Modal has a display of none for the moment because we do not want it to be displayed right now. It has, or actually, let's change that to flex so we can see it. There we go. That's our modal. It has display flex, width and height of 100 viewport height and viewport width units. That's the background we have right here. It is positioned absolutely top and left to 0, z index 1, so it's it is above our list but below the actual modal itself. A background color which has basically a black color with some transparency to it, and it is extended with the flex center class, and in that case we actually don't need that one. There we go. Then modal content, which is the box itself, has a background color, border radius, padding. It's positioned relatively. Do we actually need that? Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do, because we want to position the close button absolutely. So this one has to be relative. Display flags, align items center. Checkbox margin top 10 pixels. That seems a little off actually. Let's try 5 or 0. 2 maybe. Okay, let's go with 1 pixel. 1 pixel just to have this checkbox next to our input right there, where we can enter our text. The close button is positioned absolutely top and right 20 pixels. That's right here, the margins, and SVG is scaled down a little. Let's see, what else is it that we need? We could style the modal input, which is this element right here. Wait, is that? Just give me a second there. Yeah, modal input, task input. It has a class of task input, which is this input right here. That's the input where we'll enter our new tasks. So what I've done here is just remove the outline, the border bottom. Well, we don't need that. I gave it some padding, font weight and font size. And with this CSS selector right here and a placeholder, you can actually style the placeholder which says enter new task right here. You can enter a task, you can change it however you want. So that's that. We gave it some different color, font weight and font size. I'm just now seeing we can then increase that to 10 pixels. Yeah, that looks good to me. We can now enter a task, do something, right? And we can now all right, now that this is working, we can enter things right there. What we can start off with now is our JavaScript basically, and the first thing that we'd have to do is to make this modal appear and disappear when we click on the button or the cross icon there. The way we do that is, first of all, obviously write our normal document.add event listener, which listens for DOM content loaded, and then fires a function. Fires a function. This is just so we make sure that our actual content, our HTML structure, is loaded before we start doing anything with our JavaScript. First of all, we'll have to select a few elements. That's something I like to do on the very top of my JavaScript documents. So what we'll need is variables for our, or constants for our different HTML elements that we'll select. We need the add button, the close button, the modal itself, and later on we'll also need the input, the task list, and a selector for the checkboxes. No, it's not correct. Checkboxes. God damn it. Okay, there we go. And what we'll do here is document.query selector, and the add button has a simple class of add button, which is good. Then we can basically copy that and paste it there, and there. And we will now target the different classes. This one will be .close. The modal is simply .modal. Whoops. Then we have our input, which, as we saw already, has a class of task input .task input, and list wrapper is the list. Oh my god, I can't type today. Again. List wrapper and checkbox. Checkbox, but in this case we'll need query selector all, because we want to select all elements with a class of checkbox. That means we want to select this one, this one, this one, and all of the others. That's it for selecting elements. So let's start by making our modal. First of all, let's hide it. We will hide it by giving it, where is it? No, modal, there we go. No. Yes, we will hide it by giving the modal class display none. See, it's not there. Now, if we give it flags, it's there. That's basically the functionality we have to now implement in JavaScript, assigning classes and removing them, or assigning a CSS value and removing it, depending on whether we click the button or not. So let's do that. Let's keep it on display none for now. And let's write a comment again, show modal when add button is clicked. That's what we want to do. So what we'll first need to do is assign a event listener on click, and this again will fire a arrow function, and what it will do is select the modal, which is this right here, which corresponds to this whole HTML element, which is exactly what we want. We want to take this modal and change its style. That's basically the JavaScript prompt for changing CSS styles, and we want to change its display to a value of flex. Let's try this. It's working already. Wait, why? Did you just see what I saw? Oh, that was probably just a reloading. Okay, we're good. And all right, so we click this and we cannot start writing right away. What we would need to do is click on the input and then start writing. So to fix that, it's actually pretty simple. We'll say input to select our input and just give it the focus function. This way we click the button, the input is focused, we can start, whoops, reload it again. We can start typing something and yeah, it's good. Next thing we need to do, or actually, let's just implement the functionality and do the animations afterwards. So that's it for showing the modal. Next thing would be hiding it. So what we'll do is write a function for this. And this function will be called hide modal, obviously. Modal, and what it will basically do is modal.style.display equals a value of none again. That's basically everything this function will do. And what we will now do is, also you'll later understand why we include this into a separate function, because we actually need this function twice. We need it once when we click on this cross, and we also need it when we click on the enter button on our keyboard to add a new task, because that's kind of a natural behavior to type something in, press enter, and have the modal disappear and the task be added. So that's why we need to call this function twice. So I wrote a separate function basically. So what we need to do is another comment again, hide modal when a close button is clicked. You guys can probably already imagine what this will look like. Clicked, there we go. We basically need this right there. Change this to close. And instead of having a separate function here, we will simply have it call hide modal. There we go, just like that. That should do the trick. Let's see, yep, working, awesome. Now let's implement the Keypress. The comment in this case would be hide modal reset input, which is something else we need to do, and also add the task when enter button is pressed. Because when we click on the cross here, we simply want the modal to disappear. We do not want the task to be added or anything else, because that's not an enter button, it's a close button. But when we press enter, we do want to hide the modal, reset the input so we can start writing new tasks, and we also want the task to be added to our list. So that's what we will do right here. For that, we would need input.add event listener, because we want the input to listen to this Keypress, and that's exactly the event we are going to listen for, Keypress. It will then fire a function where we need to pass the event object. I think it's called an object, yeah. Event. And we need that because the input is now listening for a keypress, but it does not exactly know which one, or we did not target a specific keypress. So that's how we do this. We write if event.code, because this keypress event will give us a certain code which says which actual key has been pressed, and we want this code to basically be enter. This will equal our enter button on the keyboard. So when that happens, what do we want? We simply want our modal to be hidden. That's the first thing we need to do. Let's check this out. Refresh, enter a task. Whoops, that reloaded. Enter a task and press enter. That's it. That's working already, but as you can see, the task is still there. So what we want to do is, or actually let's start by adding the task to the list. There are multiple ways of doing it. I think the easiest one in our case would be with the insert adjacent HTML function. And yeah, I'll show you that. So what we'll need to target this time is our task list, because the task list is where we have these task wrappers, and a new task would simply be a task wrapper with a checkbox, task wrapper, div in it, and a checkbox and the actual task itself. This is the kind of HTML we want to insert into our page, and these things are inside the list wrapper. So this is what we're targeting here. Task list equals list wrapper, task list.insert adjacent HTML function. Now what we'll state here is before and. This basically says insert the HTML before the end of the, or at the end of the list, I think. Yeah, it's basically saying insert it at the end of the list. That means our new task will be right here. You can also use a different value, which I do not know right now, to insert it at the top of the list. But this feels more natural to me, actually. And what we'll add here is some HTML in these kind of accents on your keyboard. It's not a normal like this one or this one. It's these other ones. I actually don't know what they're called in English, but well, you'll find them. You'll use these, and you will add a certain line of HTML, which I'll just copy for now. Just like that. And I'll just explain that to you. So this is nothing else than what you can see right here. It's a task wrapper with a checkbox task wrapper inside of that, and the checkbox and the task. Let's see. We have a div task wrapper. Inside of that we have a checkbox task wrapper. Then we have a checkbox, and next to that is our h2, which is the actual class. And we can here we can insert the input.value. This means take whatever we have written in our input and insert its value right in here. That's also the reason why we need these quotation marks. That's what these things are called. So these are not normal quotation marks, but these are actually the accents that you use when you write French. So yeah, we're taking the input value and inserting it into our little HTML snippet right there. Let's see if that works. Let's see. Obviously, that's something you need to do. And I'll press enter. And it did not add the task. Wow. Okay, what's going on? Insert adjacent HTML is not a function. Okay. If you say that, then let's check out what's wrong there. Insert adjacent HTML is not a function. What What's going on? 28. There we go. Typo, of course. Let's see. There we go. Yeah, whatever. Press enter. Boom. There it is, our new task. That's working, awesome. But we still have our input filled with the last task that we wrote. So that's something we will need to fix right now. That's also pretty simple. We'll just take input dot value, and we'll assign a new value, which is simply empty. That should do the trick. Something, add with enter. Whoa, that's not working. Why? Something, enter, yeah. Add again, boom, it's empty. Something, enter, there we go. There's our next task. I actually feel like the margins are kind of off right there. Let me just see. What is it that we can do there to fix it? Just give me a second. Let's just see, 15 pixels. What does that do? No, I do not want that. What we do need is overflow Y scroll on the list wrapper CSS, because now that we can add tasks, you'll see that once we reach the end of the list, we obviously want to be able to scroll that, and that's something we can do now. That's good, but yeah, you can see the margins are kind of off there. Let's see what is it that we need to do there. All right. I think when I worked on this, I added something in here which fixed up some of the CSS in order to fix this problem with the margins. So what I'll just do is paste that in here. Seems like this is new, but the rest stayed the same actually. Let's see. Yeah, that's looking much better. That's looking good. I'm just curious what it was there. Let's see. Margin top 15 pixels. We left something out there. Removed something. Actually guys, I cannot tell you right now, but I'll add it in the comments or somewhere if I once I've taken a closer look. But okay, good, that's working. Let's go on with the next part that we need, which is we need to make our checkboxes. Now that we can add tasks, we need to make those clickable and remove tasks once we have clicked them. So what we'll do is write a new comment for the next thing that we're doing, and it's gonna basically attach event listener to dynamic objects, or let's say elements. Why is that? Because we need to somehow add a event listener to all the tasks that we add after the page has been loaded. We're loading the page. We have our set of tasks standing right there, but we do add new ones, and we also want those to be clickable. So that's what I mean with dynamic elements. And what we'll need here is actually pretty simple. What we'll need to do is select the task list again, not the actual checkbox that we want to click, but we want the task list, because the task list is the static element that's always there, so we can attach an event listener to it. Add event listener. In this case, it will be click again, and we will simply fire off a function again. We again need this event object, and what we want to do now is use a if statement to check for a checkbox, because what we're doing here is attaching a click event to the task list. The task list is this whole thing, and we only want our function to do its work if we're actually clicking on the checkbox itself. I can show you that. If we just leave it there and we log something, list clicked, you can see in the console right there that list is clicked wherever I click on the list. It doesn't really matter. What we want to do now is create a more specific if statement to check if the object or the element that we clicked is actually a checkbox. So what we'll do for that is event.target, which is the object that tells us which element specifically we have clicked, dot class list dot contains, and then write checkbox. So what this is doing, we are looking event.target, which is the element that was clicked in the task list. We will look for class list, which is basically the classes that were assigned to this HTML element, and we will check whether it contains a class of checkbox. This whole statement will either be true or false, depending on whether we have a class of checkbox or not. And if we do have this checkbox class and it is clicked, what do we want to do? We want to remove the element that has been clicked. So event.target.remove should do the trick, but I'll just show you what it does. Right, so we can click on the list wherever we want. It's not doing anything. Once we click on the checkbox, wow, you can see we are removing checkboxes. But that's not what we want to do. What we want to do is remove this whole task wrapper thing, so the actual task disappears. Why is that happening? That's happening because we're looking for checkbox. What we could do instead, let me just try this out. No, it wouldn't work. What we need to do is add a .parent node, .parent node again, twice actually. I don't know if there are like cleaner ways or more semantic ways to do this, but this is what definitely works, because what we're doing here is we're taking the checkbox, looking for its parent node, its parent wrapper basically, which is this one, and then again for that this div's parent, which is the task wrapper. This is the one that we're now targeting with .parent node, and we're removing it. What happens? Let's see. Boom, task is gone. Zack, zack, zack. That's it. And there's our task again or list again when we refresh the page. That's quite awesome. And what also works is like writing a task and ticking that one off. And this only works because we attach this event listener to the task list and not to what did I want to say? To the task list and not to the checkboxes itself. Awesome. So the next thing that we we are done concerning the functionality of our task. It's working. Like we can tick it off. These can also be ticked off. We can add as many tasks as we want. We can go ahead, write something, dismiss it. It will still be there. That's how it's intended to be. Stuff is working. Awesome. That's cool. Next thing would be adding some animations to make this a little more pleasant. So the first thing we want to do is maybe or probably is to animate the modal when it's shown. That would be right here. So what we'll do is use anime.js, which is the animation library that we are using. Script source, there we go. And let's just grab a CDN, or actually no, I have it right here. Just give me a second. There we go, add that in here, anime.js added. Now we can go ahead and write anime targets. In this case will be a simple CSS selector, will be our modal itself. No, actually not the modal itself, it will be .modal content, because we want to remove, we need two separate animations. We need one for the actual modal box and one for the dark background. Otherwise it will not work properly. So modal content, and I'll just grab the animation that I wrote, or actually I'll just walk you through it. Opacity is the first thing we want to change. We want the opacity to go from 0 to 1. That's a simple fade in animation. What I thought would be fun to do is translate Y. So translate it along the Y axis from, you'll need these brackets, from 200 to 0. That's basically a slide in animation from below. And then we also want to scale this thing from 0 to 1. Scale, why scale? Oh, comma missing, comma. I've set the duration to 500 milliseconds, so it's not taking too long, and the easing will be ease out expo. That's it. Let's see. Also, this animation, it will obviously be triggered once we click the add button, which is exactly what we want. So we click on it, there we go, there's our animation. Nice. That works quite well, I think. Now, this is the reason why I separated the modal content animation from the modal background animation, because as you can see, our modal is being animated, but our background just pops in. There's no animation, there's no fade, nothing. And that's what we're doing with this code snippet. I'll just add it here because otherwise this video is getting too long again. It's simply anime targets is modal in this case, which is .modal. I can show you .modal is this wrapper right here, which is the background itself. We're animating modal from opacity 0 to 1, ease out expo. The normal duration will be 1 second, which is fine for the background. And if you take a look at that, the background is now fading in. That's much nicer, I think, much more pleasant to the eye. That's our fade in animation for the modal. Now the fade out animation, I'll just add those in and explain them to you. So what we'll need is, again, two animations for the hide modal function. One of them will remove the modal itself, which is modal content, opacity 1 to 0, so it's fading out. Translate Y from 0 to 200, basically it's dropping out of view. Duration 500 again, and easing is still ease out expo. And what we'll need to do then is, I'll just write that down, anime. So we're now animating the background again. We can use this, targeting the modal from 1 to 0 in this case, fading out again. And there's one more thing we need in this case, because we do not want to remove or we do not want to change the display value of this of the modal until we have actually finished the animation. We want to finish the animation, have our elements disappear, and then remove them from the HTML structure. So what we'll do is just copy that, remove it, and we'll use a feature of anime which is complete. This is basically a callback. What we'll need is the anime, this anim object, we need to pass it, and we'll fire a certain function. This function will be fired once the animation, which has a duration of 1 second, is completed. So we'll do modal.style, or actually no, we'll just paste it. All right, that's it. We have an animation for the content, an animation for the background, and once the background is faded out, we want this function to be called, which removes the elements. Let's check it out. Add something, and boom, there we go. Boom. If we press enter, it's doing the same thing, because obviously clicking enter also just calls hide modal. So that's that. Boom. That works great. The next animation would be for the elements to disappear. When we click the checkbox, we do want an animation there. And obviously, guys, anime.js is fun, and you can do like a ton of things with it. So just play around with these values, try some different animations, try some easing options. Just head over to the anime.js site, to their documentation, and check these things out. Like that's a beautiful, beautiful documentation, and you can just read through it. It's so much fun, and just play around with these things. So, but yeah, what I'm showing you is just one way of doing things. Oh, we're already at 45 minutes. Let's go. So what we'll need is an animation, which I'll in this case just paste in here. We will need this animation. Where do we need it? Yeah, here. We're removing our elements right there. This is the animation that I wrote for it. And as you can see, this is the function that we have been calling. And again, this function will be called, this should be anim, will be called once the animation is completed. Same concept as before, means we can take that out. What we're doing here is targets, is event.target.parent node, which is exactly the same as here, simply without the remove, because we just want to target this whole task wrapper in our HTML. Translate x 350 is what I decided on for the animation. That means a value of 350 pixels, I believe that is. Easing is ease out expo, and once it's completed, remove the task. Let's try this out. Click, boom, it's gone. Click, boom, whoops, refresh there. Click, boom, it's gone, it's gone, it's gone. That works pretty well. Obviously, when you remove one from inside the list, the others will just like move up. That's not perfect, but I think it works for this tutorial. I think that's fine. So that's that. And then there is Something else we can do, what I just did for fun, is a animation for the app itself once it's loaded. I'll just add that at the end of this file. Let's go anime. We are targeting task wrapper and task date wrapper, which are basically all the tasks that are in our list right here. We'll do translate x minus 400 to 0, which basically lets them move in from the left. Opacity 0 to 1, easing stays the same, and some delay. We are also using a function here. These are a couple objects that we have to pass, and then we can return a value of I, which is basically the number of the item that we're currently targeting, times 50. 50 is in this case the value for the delay, and depending on which element we're currently looking at, this number will be multiplied, which gives a nice delay effect, which we'll see in a second. And we've actually used this method before in other videos. Then I've also added a small animation for the add button. So we're simply targeting add button, translate y 200 to 0, which makes it move upwards, ease out expo, and a delay of 500 milliseconds. Let's check this out. There it is. Beautiful. This is our little animation. And then go ahead, add something, enter, it's added, remove it, boom, boom, boom. It's all working. Nice. I like it. Actually, I feel like it turned out pretty nice. Yeah. That's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this one, this project. Yeah, it took quite a while for the second video to come out, but finally that's done as well. I've been quite busy with school and another client project that I'm currently working on, but that's finished. So we're good. I hope to push out some more content in the coming weeks and months. And until then, have fun coding. As I've said, you can get everything on GitHub, and we'll see each other at the next video. Thank you guys.